before we get in, well, I had 3 topics tonight. One was, what are we going to do for the last 3 months? And we've had some discussion about that. Jim and Al, if you have any thoughts or ideas about topics for the last 3 AISIG meetings, let me know, because right now we're planning that part of the year. And we need to have topics that, are of interest to all the astro imagers. So that was the first thing I was going to talk about. The second was next month's meeting. And what we've decided to do is to have, to pick a specific object in the sky that's in a place where it can be easily, or, well, I guess easily, if any of this is easy, where it can be photographed in August. And we're asking the members, all the members, each one of them, to take pictures of this thing, process the pictures, and discuss how that turned out in the August meeting, which will be, I don't know what the date is, but the fourth Wednesday in August. So that's the topic here. And then after that, we'll take a look at how people process the tarot images. So Dave and I kind of went over there's a lot of objects out there that you could process in August, because the Milky Way is coming back into view, and this is the best time to see it in the south, especially. In fact, the only time to see it. So there's a lot of targets, but I think we want to pick one that's kind of not extremely difficult, but is certainly an interesting picture to take. And we came up with a list of what, about 9 of them, 3, 6, yeah, 9 possible targets for the month. And so we need to narrow this down to just one, so that we can all get out in August and take a bunch of pictures. So here's the list. The first one is a globular. I just thought I'd put a globular in there because it was kind of an interesting target. 16, 17 are both in the southern sky, and they don't get real high, but they're really interesting targets. Dumbbell is higher in the sky and is up for almost all night in August. The Pac-Man, I think, is a real interesting smaller target, but it doesn't get up until a little bit later at night. The Crescent is another all-nighter. It can be seen, almost all the time that we would be spending trying to image it. The Pelican and the Satyr. The Satyr is just a star. It's not actually an extended object. But it's surrounded by a lot of nebulosity, and is an interesting part of the sky to photograph. And of course, the Pelican is a big area right next to the North American Nebula, and it also is good for wide field imaging. So with that, if anybody had a target they wanted to add, that'd be fine too. But what we need to do is kind of pick one of these and make it the focus of what the group is going to do in August. Anybody got comments on what's on the chart?
Well, Pac-Man is 35 size, so it's pretty good size too.
Oh, yeah.
Pac-Man? Yeah, it's not tiny. Oh, I see it. I've got the chart didn't get. I didn't put the latest chart up there. I see this. The sizes are not. There's question marks on a bunch of the sizes.
Oh, that's not what I'm seeing. Oh, yeah, size. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I see your question marks. Just for information, guys, when we've done this in the past, we've tried to pick out a couple of targets that allowed you multiple nights of multiple hours of imaging. Typically in August, if you're assuming we're going to be shooting some of this stuff at TDS, typically in August, we don't get a lot of humidity and a lot of overnight clouding. So basically, if you think the new moon is sitting, right around the 3rd or 4th or whatever the heck it is, the targets, most of these targets, except for the Pac-Man, hit transit at about midnight. So it gives you, from 9 o'clock at night till 4 o'clock in the morning kind of stuff to get some of the targets. So it's any of them should give you a couple of nights worth of imaging, depending on what you try to take pictures of.
Well, we did the Pelican last year, and that
Yep.
worked out very well.
So probably we don't want to repeat it this year. So
Yeah.
I would agree with that. One of my favorites is that elephant trunk. It's a real interesting object with different kinds of molecules, if you will, creating the nebulosity in the top half and the bottom half of it. So the colors you get out of it are kind of unusual, I would say. And so it's an interesting looking object. So I kind of, that would have been
Oh, yeah.
one of the high value targets, huh?
Right next to the Garnet Star.
Yeah, right. So how many have actually imaged the Pac-Man in the past?
I've not had a chance to do it. I told Scott I'll set Taro up to do it. I just got to figure out what filters and stuff in it, but
Yeah,
there's a good chance this will end up as a Taro target.
yeah. I have done it, so I've got one, but I would do it again. Or maybe I would add to the data that I took several years ago, one way or the other. But I don't want that to be, I mean, that's just one of the candidates that I thought was attractive, and let me know, tell me which ones you guys like. In fact, what we might do is I might stop the share here, and you guys could just use the chat feature and pick your favorites. And well, it's hardly a big vote, but does anybody want to do that? Does that make sense?
Jim Morale, you guys are new at this. What do you want to do?
Yeah, that's fine. I have a unmodified DLSR, so I'm wondering like some of these. So the globular is good, but I think Pac-Man, I'm not going to get a lot of red, right? So
yeah, Pac-Man does have a lot of hydrogen emission, so it is kind of red. But you still, I mean, even with an unmodified DSLR, you should get,
with enough of time.
Yeah, right, exactly. You got a whole month,
Yeah, I mean, Pac-Man looks interesting to me. The M27.
Yeah, the dumbbell's always a beautiful target.
I was planning on trying to shoot that. I have not. So, but I mean, that's my choices, but.
Okay.
What optics are you shooting with, Jim?
Yeah, I have a 80 millimeter. So it's what's
really nice wide field. That'll work.
Wide
really
field.
well.
Yeah. So, and I looked at Pac-Man is big enough that it's okay. Dumbbell is kind of small, but it's still.
For an 80 millimeter, it's going to turn out to be like, a not so big portion of your chip. Scott, let me share something for a second.
Sure. Let me get out.
Okay. All right. You guys see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the Sky X. This is Satyr. So this is what you're looking at here. The purple, that round circle in the square are actually. So this is the field of view of the chip in Taro. That ring is what I use to set the look angle or the position angle for the rotator. But if you look, this is Satyr. It has a huge amount of has a good chunk of nebulosity sitting all around this reflection nebula, sitting all around here. My guess is this would be good. This would be a nice wide field image as well.
Okay.
So that
Yeah.
would, I'm pretty sure that would work well in something like a DSLR with an 80. I used to shoot with a DSLR and an 80 all the time. So I
Yeah.
suspect that would probably work out pretty well.
Uh-huh. You know,
Okay.
what we've said is we would pick one target and everybody would do it, but perhaps we need to be a little flexible on that if because an 80 millimeter is probably not the best target or the best optics to do one of the smaller targets. And maybe it's more appropriate, you know, for the 80 millimeters or anybody with a smaller aperture to do something like SDAA.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we could do one wide field and a
Yeah.
little faint fuzzy or something like that if you wanted to.
Yeah. And since we did the Pelican last year, SDAA would be the logical
Right.
pick.
And the other side is that you could also pick the North American nebula as an object, because that is, I mean, I did that in my little 66 and it took up a big chunk of the sky in a 66. So on a
Yeah.
DSLR, that's another one you can throw up there is NGC 7000.
That's a good point.
The elephant trunk is pretty large too. It's 170 by 140.
Is it really that big?
Yeah, the
Huh.
entire area is pretty big.
Yeah. Let's go back to, can I go back to the share?
Yeah, I'm done here.
So if we make SDAA one of them, what do you guys think about the Eagle and Omega, the Swan in the south? They don't get real high, but are those decent ones to, I mean, in my own personal case, I don't see very well to the south. I got trees in the way, you know, from my place. But are those too far south or too low in the sky to work?
I'm hearing silence here.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't think so. Ed and I did row Ophiuchus at TDS, and of course we got a good shot of the south, and it is low. And if you look in Sky Tools 4, it doesn't compute well. It's like, why would you even bother to do this thing? But the images turned out pretty good.
Yeah.
So I would say any of them, M16, 17 are probably good targets from TDS.
Yeah, they aren't that low. I mean, they're over 40 degrees.
Yeah.
So at least on the 10th of or the 1st of August, and they should stay high through the month, I think. So those could be possibilities. I don't know how to, as a group, I don't know how to winnow it down to one. Well, we can say SDAA would be the wide field guy, but the other 8 of them, I don't know how to whittle it down exactly, except maybe to ask you guys to go to chat and tell me your preference. The silence is deafening.
Look, I'm wide field, so SDAA, I've already gotten my target.
Yeah, same with me.
Me too.
I have a DSLR that I'll do SDAA also.
Okay. Sounds
So
like
Ken and Al, you two are gonna do SDAA.
Yeah.
Let's ask AC, what would be your pick?
to not fall down and break his arm.
Yeah,
Which one is Stater?
SDAA's the star. It's up, it's not too far from the North American. It's a little bit south and east, I think. And it's got a whole bunch of nebulosity around it. It's a big area, good for a small aperture with a big field of view.
I can do that one. I don't care.
You want to do that one?
No.
Okay.
All right, Scott, looks like you got your suckers here.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like we picked SDAA, but I would like to pick one of the narrow field guys. Any preference?
Scott, you say you can get the Eagle from where you're at, or is that too low?
I can get the Eagle, I think.
yeah.
That'd be an interesting challenge for me.
What about
I
it?
haven't,
Well, the other thing is pick M75, just because globulars are really tricky to try to process.
that's interesting too, yeah.
And M75 is fairly high. It's a pretty little glob, but getting good pictures on a glob is, like I explained to you the other day, some of the best astrophotographers in the country have problems getting that. So
Yeah, right. Yeah, they're not easy. What do you think you'd do with Taro?
Oh, I might with Taro, I might, if I can get, if the weather cooperates, I'll shoot the Pac-Man. Just
Uh-huh.
because I don't, just because I, you know, I can, the problem with Pac-Man right now is that it gets above 30 degrees at 11 o'clock at night. So right now, the Pac-Man is not ideally placed.
Yeah,
So, you know, Taro will run after midnight. So it gets about, you know, depending on when the sun comes up, it's going to get, you know, 4.5 hours a night per processing. And it kind of depends on what filters we're throwing in there to make it go. But I'll
Yeah.
probably point it at Pac-Man and see how it runs. The basic thing is it hasn't been cold enough at nighttime to actually chill the cameras down to do it.
yeah. I think what we're kind of tending towards here is not just a single target, but maybe, I mean, at least for this group of 6, which shouldn't be the whole group that's doing imaging. You know, we should expect that we'll have 20 people doing it. I don't know, but more than 6. But it looks like we're tending towards, instead of picking one target and having everybody go after it, there may be a good rationale for picking 2 or 3.
Yeah, I'd say pick 2 and see
Yeah.
where people go with it.
If I was going to do it, I think I might go with the Pac-Man. I've done the elephant trunk, but the Pac-Man's too late. No, I take that back.
Yeah, transit at about 4:30 in the morning. So
Yeah,
unless,
That's bad.
right.
unless
No,
you
that's
have the option of
past-
sleeping.
Yeah, past my bedtime. So if I were picking, I would pick the Eagle or the elephant trunk.
Well, the Eagle works out really well in narrowband as well. It's got lots
Yeah.
of narrowband stuff in there, so you can do
Yeah, right, for sure.
HA&O2 and do some pretty nice stuff with HA&O2 if you wanted to.
The only question is, I've never tried, you know, we spent a lot of money getting the trees trimmed just a month ago. And I'm not sure it helped. So at least I have a shot at it, but I've never tried. So I guess that's what I would do as the Eagle, just to see, if for no other reason, just to see how well I can do looking south. So that would be
All right.
mine.
So
What
we're
would,
going to do Stater and the Eagle and see how it comes out.
okay. Is that a reasonable choice for everybody?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, if other people have other ideas and didn't show up at the meeting, then we can ask them or let them tell us what they think. But the going in position is the Eagle and Satyr, right?
So Seder right now transient at 46 after midnight.
Uh-huh. That's a reasonable, I mean, I can stay
Yeah,
up till
that's
midnight.
about right. So you could get a couple hours before midnight.
Rises
Okay.
at 1625 and sets at 0903.
All right, well, then let's move on to the other topic, I guess. What did people do with the tarot images that Dave provided, and how do they look? Who would like to go first? I'd like to go last.
Well, okay, I can go if you want to.
Okay,
Go,
All right. Here we go. Sharing the screen. And come on, guys. I had PowerPoint up. It's not sharing my PowerPoint screen.
is this my fault?
I don't know.
No, it's not.
I'm going to go share screen again. Now it got it PowerPoint.
Okay,
Okay, here we go. I'm good. This is going to be fairly brief. I chose the sunflower M63, kind of arbitrarily because I wanted to get more experience with a galaxy and all the details in the arms, which M63 had. That's what I got, and I think it worked out pretty well. A couple of just generic notes is I made a mistake when we did the Pelican because I hadn't checked other images to see what the challenges were going to be particularly that little bright spot down near his heart. And I was disappointed that I didn't pick it out, because if I'd known about it, I would have. So I looked at other images and found they vary quite a bit in terms of processing and wild color schemes and everything. But you can tell it's the high dynamic range of the galactic nucleus versus the detail in the arms. And it is a little bit small. I thought the Tarot data was very clean. I only rejected 7 images using Blink. I think your Tarot data is cleaner than a lot of the data that I get. Not every single run, but reliably, it's real clean data. As you'll see, I use the arcsine hyperbolic stretch almost exclusively. I just couldn't get anything else to work. Mostly PixInsight, but I always finish up in Photoshop, as you'll see. But so there's the resultant image. The stars are clean. I got a lot of detail. And the question is, how bright do you want to make it, and how much of the halo around it do you want to get versus blowing it out? So that's the compromise I came up with. Okay, what did I do? Okay, processing sequence. By the way, I store all of my files on an external 6 terabyte hard drive. If it was my data, I would save all of the Fitz masters on my own hard drive and back it up, and I've got a filing system, but I save all the intermediate products on the 6 terabyte hard drive so I can keep going back to it, because a lot of times I'll process it once and try again and try something else. And I also like to get PixInsight to save the whole project sequence, because I'm never quite sure what I've done and I keep doing it over and over and over again. But in any event, so I used Blink. I didn't use the subframe selector. I did it multiple times, and I tend to magnify the corners because I've had that corner rotation problem with my own gear. Again, I only rejected 7, probably based on contrast. Maybe I could have thrown out a few more. I used WBPP2, and by the way,
can you say just a little bit about what do you mean by magnify the corners?
Yeah, what I do is, when you get the little image in Blink, I'll go through there once to look at it grossly, and I'll just flip through it, see what I've got, and then I'll typically magnify that image that you get in Blink and choose one corner or the other and I kind of go through it that way, because I'm a little sensitive to distortions in the edges, which you don't get in Tarot data, but I still do that. So that's what I mean by magnifying the corners. I find magnifying the blinked images really helps you.
Question, Ken, that's actually one of the pieces of, that's one of the Tarot targets I've never tried to do anything with, just haven't got around to it. I'm trying to remember, this target was Stuart Foreman used this target as for a couple of years ago for processing demonstration. I'm curious, did you see in the lower right-hand corner, did you see any oblong stars, or was it pretty much round all over the frame?
What I saw was pretty round. Okay. I saw a few differences in signal to noise. In other words, one to be bright of the other. I saw a couple of satellites go through, and I don't care about those because they'll median out.
Yeah.
But no, I thought the data again was very clean. So after blinking and transferring some of the the 7 bad images, or at least the ones that I thought were bad enough, then I just threw it all into WBPP2. And I'm sorry to use PixInsight jargon. We tend to use our weighted batch pre-processing, the second version, which is the current one, and it's very advanced. It loads all of your flats, all of your darks, all your biases, all your lights, and it sorts them out. And you can even do a batch process to check it to see if it's going to do it properly and if you have any glitches, so you can fix that before you run it. with the tarot data I have, I recorded the time. It ran for a solid 15 minutes on my iMac with a lot of memory. And after I got all of those products, then I just did an Lrgb combination of the master red, blue, green, and the light, or the L, and got my color picture. I thought it was way understretched, and I tried the conventional methods, STF, the normal screen transfer, Control A, take a look at it, pull it up there, do the Control A, link it, unlink it, move it down to the histogram transformation and background neutralization. But I saw a lot of artifacts when I did that. Whenever I got a generally nice stretched image, I saw some donuts, I saw some ugly lines in there. So I was really unhappy with that. So I backed off those processes and I started over with multiple small versions of arcsine hyperbolic. When I took math, arcsine H was hyperbolic. I don't know what it is today. But I kept stretching it and finally got a fairly good image. And the color was off. And rather than horsing it through one of the background neutralizations, Dave Woods set me up to use photographic color correction. And I used PCC, and bingo, the colors just came out beautifully, and I didn't have to do any more work to get any green shift or anything out of it. With a Bayer matrix, I tend to get a lot extra green and have to use some kind of a green reduction scheme. I played around with that a lot. I didn't say so on this slide, but I thought maybe this is okay, and I saved as a TIFF, put it in Photoshop, tried it. It wasn't responding to Photoshop at all with levels and curves and so forth. So I went back into PixInsight and masked the galaxy with that game program, which lets you draw an elliptical mask that was right over the galaxy. And then I was happy with that arcsine hyperbolic stretch and kept at that a couple of times till I got what I thought was a nice image. And then I normally use ACDNR for noise reduction, but what the devil. I tried TGV denoise using Warren Keller's recommended defaults and got a fairly nice image. And I will admit, you'll see from the next slide, I never got the hang of adjusting hue and saturation in PixInsight. I like the way Photoshop does it. I never got it to work in PixInsight. So I saved it as 16-bit TIFF, open up Photoshop. I didn't need to adjust any levels or curves. That wasn't going to be productive. However, I did adjust the hue and saturation just slightly, just to bring out the colors that I wanted. And every time I denoise it every time I go through a major processing step. So when I'm finished with it in PixInsight, I denoise it to eliminate any noise artifacts that I've gotten, so forth, bring it into Photoshop, and I've got Neat Image 8 for Photoshop. So after I'd done the color correction, I did noise reduction in Photoshop. I found if I don't do that step, I'm going to see artifacts or somebody's going to point them out. Overall, except for the difficulty of getting the stretch, that arcsine module seemed to do very well. I thought it was kind of a straightforward thing to do. And if I had thought it was different, I probably would have gone back and reprocessed it using a couple of different processing steps, but this seemed to work out pretty well. Any questions, comments, better ways to do it?
When you say you haven't been able to get the hang of hue and saturation, were you aiming for stars, aiming for the galaxy, aiming for both? What were you trying to do?
I was aiming for really the galaxy. But you know, I've seen how it works. I've tried to follow it in Warren Keller's. I've seen, you know, you can use the curves and have it go and do a color saturation, but you know, I've just never gotten the hang of it.
Oh, because one of the things I found to be really easy to do was to put a lightness mask, was to take my color image, pull a lightness mask from the thing, or pull a light, you know, basically pull the lightness out of the object.
Right.
And then, we lost, we lost Scott. He dropped off the face of the planet. And what I did was to use a lightness mask and use the lightness mask as to mask, to basically flip back and forth. So I applied the lightness as a mask, as a luminance mask, and then turn it on and off depending on what I was trying to enhance. So for instance, if I'm trying to color saturate the stars, I'll flip the mask backwards, and that way the stars, so everything gets masked except for the stars, and then I can just bump the curve up a little bit on the stars so they get saturated without blowing out without blowing out the galaxy. So that's something you may go back. That's actually something I learned from Harry Page. If you go look, I think Harry still got something up, but my PixInsight processing techniques were actually, you know, born on a 4-day Thanksgiving weekend a whole long time ago. And Harry Page actually has some pretty good ways to use a lightness mask to help you out with the curves and color saturation.
Oh, I'll have to look that up, because you know, every time I do it, I just ham-fisted.
Sure.
I know how to use Photoshop. That is the sole remainder of the Photoshop processes that I'm dependent on.
Keep in mind that one of the best astrophotographers out there, Ken Crawford, he's very much a blender. He very much likes to take some processes in Pix and some processes in Photoshop and combine them. He's been doing that for a heck of a long time. You go look at his stuff and it's just astounding, the depth of field, and he moves back and forth. You know, you know, oftentimes you see the funny depictions of, you know, one guy on the end of the PixInsight rope and the other guy on the Photoshop rope on the end of the rope, and they're pulling tug of wars against each other. But Ken Crawford has done some pretty good stuff using both as far as blending the techniques.
Well, I really like that game script that we've all downloaded, because you know, the star mask works real well in PixInsight, but when game came along, if I didn't have game, I probably would have done a mask in Photoshop. But again, the more Photoshop techniques you can migrate back to PixInsight, because PixInsight tends to do it better.
Yes, well, it's a little bit more mathematically inclined. Cool.
Okay.
Since Scott dropped off, I'll act as the host. Anybody else have any questions? Anybody else have any questions? No, everybody's shaking their head.
Yeah.
All right.
He blew it, didn't he?
All right, Al. You said you processed everything, buddy. We're looking for everything, and that's, you must not work, because I know how much data I threw up there, and you must have a hell of a lot of bandwidth, because, well, I know that the Christmas tree cluster was a.
Well, I do not work. I did spend a lot of time on this. That is true, and did learn a lot. I use a program. I'm on a Macintosh. I bought a program for my normal camera processing called Affinity Photo, and it turns out their latest version includes an astrophotography processing as well. So you can throw in some photos, it'll stack them for you. And once they're stacked, then you can just use your normal. I think Affinity is a lot like Photoshop. So just kind of go in and just stack images and do different adjustments on them. Let me see. So
Does Affinity work with FITS files?
Yeah, raw and FITS.
Okay.
Open. I have to open system preferences. Just a second. Okay, something happened?
Not yet. You still got to share your screen. On the bottom row down there, it says chat, share screen.
Yeah, I'm gonna get into, I have to change my system preferences to allow it.
Oh,
Um, Let me see, system preferences, sorry.
He's got a Mac, so he's handicapped.
no, he's
Yeah.
not. I've got a Mac and will kick a PC's ass when it comes to performance and
Yeah,
usage.
I've got a Mac too, and it processes this.
You're in the
math.
wrong place. You're in the wrong place, AC, if you're thinking that you're going to push max buttons here. Sorry, dude.
Oh, when they came out and changed to the Intel inside, I had the old G5, and all my software just turned to garbage.
That was a long time ago.
That's why I hate Mac.
Well, I'm,
Hey, Scott's back.
I think I need a couple of minutes to figure out my preferences here. So, but anyhow, that's what affinity, and it's mostly. I'm gonna need a couple of minutes. Sorry.
No worries. All right. So what'd you do? What'd you process, AC? If Al's going to play around, you get to go. You get to go now.
Oh, I did what? This one. Let me share and you can watch.
I like your new backyard telescope.
can you hear me now?
Can.
Yes.
Sorry, am I interrupting AC's part?
Not now. He's now sharing. You can go.
Yeah, well, my screen locked up. Not only locked up, it locked up with the share on there. And there was, I mean, no way for me to get to anything else. It was, this machine was totally locked. I pushed the button and had to reboot, which, you know, this machine's got a lot of stuff on it. It takes a long time to reboot.
All right. Well, AC. So AC is now sharing his screen. He's going to show us what he did with the wizard.
Okay, well, I'll shut up and let him do that. I got to figure out how I can show my stuff because it's I had to come in on a different machine.
All right, go ahead, AC. Tell us all about it, buddy.
One, I took the combination of the Lrgb, and that's what the result was. And this is sort of the final image, which I was still fussing with. Now, I've been using
So quick question while you're sitting there digging things up. Did you use the XISF formats or the FIT formats? Looks like you grabbed the FITs.
yeah, that was a FITS.
Yeah, and I did the fits too.
Oh, you're muted there, AC.
Yeah, I know, but I'm trying to get it permanently unmuted. Keep hitting the space bar. I'm getting a pop-up on the screen to unmute it permanently.
Well, that's okay.
Well, I know, but it messes up my thing over here on Pix Insight. So not popping up. No, anyway.
So explain this easy processing suite while you're trying to select it.
Am I unmuted?
You are, or you were, now you are.
Yeah, but I'm not permanently unmuted and I can't play with the,
You can do Alt A on your keyboard and that will toggle mute on and off.
Yeah, you're still muted there, Casey.
Yeah, he's muted.
okay, now it's working. Anyway, I cannot unmute permanently for some reason. I don't know why that is. But anyway, go, do you have the,
You're back to muted there, AC.
there it goes. I don't have anything at the bottom of my screen when I go down there to permanently unmute. All I get is a temporary unmute.
So use Alt A to mute. I believe it's Alt A will, the
Yes.
keystroke Alt A will mute and unmute, will toggle your mute.
No, it's not.
Alt A?
Correct.
It didn't work.
Huh.
I'm not getting the meeting controls. Damn. I'm sorry. I cannot on share either.
Well, I can fix that. Hang on. Let me,
Can you unshare me?
yes, I can here. Boom.
Can you unmute me? Permanent.
I don't have that control.
All right. Now I'm unmuted. Now I'll go back to share screen.
Okay,
Oh, you have to unshare.
I did.
Okay. There we go. We're back. Oh, wrong one. I want this one. Boom. There you go. All right, let's see if this will work now. Under script, batch processing. Let's talk about that first. This weighted works really well, but if you look at the indicators lately on the latest changes, it is not using the darks. So I went back, this is not on this process, but otherwise. So you have to look as your data goes through, it is not using the darks. For some reason, I don't know what's wrong with it. So some of the new stuff, I've been going back to the older batch processing.
That seems pretty odd. I noticed that it's not using the darks necessarily on the lights, and it only applies bias to the light, to the flat frames, but it's still definitely using darks against the straight images. It's just saying when you look at that, it says, "Oh, hi, I'm only going to use the bias against the. I'm only going to apply bias toward the flat frames."
Yeah, but I think that I've noticed that since Scott fixed it. Anyway, that's another problem. Also, I found in the easy processing, the denoise works really well. And the soft stretch works well. And the star reduction works well. Now we can demonstrate, I don't know if you have this in your PixInsight or not, guys, but You should have it.
I had a
And-
question about that. Is that, can you just go download those from somewhere or?
Well, they kind of popped up with some of the updates.
Okay,
You may have it in your data. You might have to load it in.
I
Would
think
you
you
do that?
load the link into PixInsight and then it'll refresh it whenever it goes looking for new modules.
okay.
But now a few times that I've done the Lrgb, I've had some weird stuff with a lot of green, etc. And what I've been doing is do a soft stretch before you combine them in Lrgb, which is interesting.
Hmm.
And then, of course, I denoise while they're still separated, and then when it gets all done again. But the star reduction on this works really nice and easy. I don't know if you've seen that or not. Let me make a clone over here. This is pretty straightforward. This is just playing with it with Lrgb and going in and doing some dark enhance and that sort of stuff. I haven't even denoised it yet. I did this a few weeks ago when it first popped out, so therefore, you know, it, I don't know if you've seen this star reduction. What one is this? 11 clone. Okay. Some things that might not work, you always want to make a clone, and it's real easy to make one, as you saw there. Just click on this and pull it out. Still cranking. Yeah, I'm not used to these little spikes on the stars. Where does that come from, I wonder? It's cranking, but that works really well. I like that. Also eliminates a lot of noise too.
So it's 10%, it's 10% done, huh?
Oh,
Well,
it's cranking. Well, let's talk about this image here if you want. What else you want to know about this one?
So that's an RGB. Where's the,
It is now, yeah, but it was from the FIT files of, I used hydrogen alpha, S2, and O3 to put this together.
oh, so that's okay. So that's a narrowband composition
Correct.
using the RGB combinations tool.
With no L.
Yeah.
I tend not to use L because that any contamination you have in your sky where you are just kind of makes it worse. So if you want to use that, I don't use it. 38%.
must be running on a PC.
Pardon?
Gotta be.
Must be a PC. Math is slow.
No, but I got 24 processing with 36 gigabytes of memory, so don't give me that. No, it's a big process.
Yeah, I know. I've used it too, and I have pretty good results with it.
So just while we're sitting here waiting, AC, what colors did you assign? What color palette did you use to do that?
Just the red was hydrogen alpha, the green was sulfur, and the blue was O3. Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Using Lrgb.
Did you try to remove that gradient?
Which gradient?
Well, if you look at the lower left, it's very bluish, and the upper right.
On your screen?
Yeah, on the screen that you're.
I really can't tell what real colors I have to print it out because my screen is the blue is taken out of my screen right now because it's night.
Sometimes you can't tell the difference between nebulosity and a gradient.
Well, that's very true, and that's one of the reasons I ask, because it's kind of diffused, so And if you tried to process it out, you might do a lot of damage.
Oh, you move, what did Scott just do? He's got a Scott Dixon frame over here and he's over in SDAA media.
Yeah, I was logged in. Are you still getting an echo on mine?
No,
Yeah,
I took care of that.
Yeah, well, I was logged in on 2 machines and I think I was getting an echo here.
You
Yeah,
were,
So I
no, you weren't echoing.
down
You were
one of 'em.
transmitting on both machines simultaneously.
Yeah, and the sound was cross-talking.
Woo, you're done.
Nope. See the
Nope.
little hourglass?
Still got
oh,
some
oh,
more.
so, oh, I see what it's doing. So it's a curse transformation. So
There
it's
you
doing,
go.
okay, so it's,
Now
it's a script file that's running a whole bunch of other fun stuff.
Right.
in the back
Oh,
of it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Does that look a little better now without all the stars?
Yeah, I think it does.
And it takes out a lot of the basic noise too.
So this is a star size reduction script, not by doing it by processes.
That's correct. It's doing the whole thing for you in
Yeah.
the easy script. And you know, that works really well. And soft stretch works good. HDR, I don't know. We can denoise this. I don't know if you guys played with this much at all. I don't know if you have,
I haven't seen it.
but it saves a lot of trouble. Like the star reduction, use the other one that's over here in process, which is StarNet.
Well,
Then
that's star removal.
huh?
So morphological transform is typically what you do for star reduction. Star net removes the stars entirely.
Yeah, but it's like a 3-step process. It's not simple to do and just using the processes.
No, it's not, because also you have to use your PIX mathematics to put it back together.
On StarNet?
Yeah. Because you want a mask of this. If you want to remove the stars totally, you end up with the stars only. So you end up, you might want to change them or work on them to add them back in. And sometimes what some of the guys do, like this one here, you got a lot of green stuff on it. And there's really no color in these stars. So now you take your RGB, take the stars out of this, make an RGB like this, and take only the stars and add them back into this. So you get all your colors on your stars. It's kind of a fun thing to do.
Yeah, I've done that too, but I kind of like this easy star reduction. It's just so much easier.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know, I have another way to do it with Images Plus. For years has had a star size reduction tool in it.
No, this
And,
is not. This doesn't change the star size. It reduces them.
Yeah, right.
It takes them out. It doesn't make, like, this star is still the same size as it was.
Yeah, I saw that in the process. It uses morphological transform to do that.
Yeah.
When you were processing, and I saw it do the morphological transform. I didn't see the process. I didn't see the parameters it placed on morphological transform, but that's exactly what it was doing.
Yeah, the script has used different processes to
Yeah.
do it, I'm sure.
Correct.
One of those definitely was morphological.
And of course, I like the dark enhance, so that makes it kind of fun to play with too, which really brings out these dark areas. Any questions or anything I can help you with while I'm here? Before I run.
The easy stuff was the first time I'd seen that, so I'm going to try to download it and see what it does.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I really like it because I'm lazy.
I'm curious, how many people running Pix Insight have benchmarked their machines and set the benchmarks?
Well, we can run it on mine right now if you want.
Well, no, that'll take a whole long time. Trust me.
No, it won't.
Well, how many to do it right? It will, because
Oh,
you're gonna change and add. You know, in this whole process, you're going through and changing and adding script files or adding the amount of script files.
All right, I won't do it then. Anyway, back to work. Now we can look at this. Let's do an easy stretch on this just for grins.
Yeah.
Also, I like mask stretch too, which creates a star mask for you in the stretch. HA, where are we? Which one? This one.
That's your registered, it's registered.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I had the same.
Woo.
What?
No, this is,
Stretched. You take that. It gives you an interesting results. Get rid of those. Then you stretch your green, blue. Stretch this one. What did I, how come I got so much stuff here? SR1. Where the hell is it? Oh, run it down, dummy.
that's it.
And then we'll stretch 03 just for grins. I want to show you by putting them together after they're stretched. It's kind of interesting. Gives you a whole different, it gives you a more balanced picture, I think. Am I slowing the meeting down? I'm sorry.
No, take your time. We got an hour to go, or well, 50 minutes.
Oh, I'm not going to take that long, I hope.
Oh. Oh, you got
Dorothy would disagree.
Oh, okay. And then you jump over here and get your Lrgb. See, what I do is to get this set up like this. Oh, you can't see it over there, unfortunately. Where'd it go? Oh, that's the one over here. Let me move over here so you can see it.
Yeah, here we go.
Well, it was on the other screen. What I do is all my processes that I use a lot, I pull over to the side, or I can put them over here, and then I save the PixInsight with nothing in here. Then I reload it, and I've got all the ones I use all the time set up for me, rather than going through those hieroglyphics things that the other guys do. This good? Will this run? Well, that's the wrong one. Let's abort it. You got to get the right ones. You're going to do it right.
You know, if Adam Block were doing this, he would have renamed them, because and then you can pick them out right away.
Well, normally I don't have this much up here playing around. And I hate renaming because that requires thinking. 03, R1, that's the one I want.
Well, it was Yogi Berra who said you can't think and hit at the same time.
Yeah, these are the ones we stretch, as you can see here by the title. Yeah, you can go in here and rename it if you want, but that takes time. almost done. There we go. Now this one here is using, get rid of this. This is using the ones that not been stretched.
You had no lumens in that one, right?
That's correct. Loomis, where I'm at here, if there's any haze or excess moisture, all you're doing is flattening your whole image with a basic grayscale on top of everything, because you've got everything together in Loomis.
Yeah.
So I don't think it really adds anything to it. And this is the one that we just did with these all stretched first. And sometimes this comes out a little better than what this one does. over
AC,
here.
that's what happens if you use the luminance image that Dave gave us. But what happens, or did you try using the H alpha for luminance?
I don't know. Well, we can try it.
Well, why don't you, I'll show it when I show my part.
Okay, you ready to, am I done playing here? Can I go away now?
Yes, you can go away.
It's okay by us.
Oh, gee, thanks, guys. Any other questions? Now, how can I stop muting? Oh, now I gotta get back here. Okay, I gotta. Oh, for the stuff on, where's the, oh, there we go. Oh, on share, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's share. How do you unshare? Oh, stop share, dummy. That did it.
Hey, AC, have you tried using that easy soft stretch multiple times, stretch a little, stretch it again, and so forth? And how does that work rather than taking a bigger leap?
I have not tried that. I'm not experimenting with that. I haven't seen the necessity. Then I usually use screen transfer function to correct some of the data and whatnot. Pull it into your histogram transformation. Everybody know how to do that?
Yep.
So I was offline for a while trying to figure out what Zoom did to my computer. Did I miss part of the show? And Al,
No.
your presentation, and I didn't see that, huh?
Al,
No, I'm going to try it again right now. I was having some settings problems, so let's see if I can
Boy, we all are.
Yeah.
try
I'll
share
read.
screen. Okay. Select
something.
what okay, that's a whiteboard. I don't think I want that.
Yeah.
So how do I want to share my desktop?
So you have to select it, so you have to select the desktop in your sharing options. And actually, depending on whether you can either share a desktop or you can share an application directly.
Okay. Select text draw. So say that again. When I do the share,
Just go to the green share screen.
right?
Right, go to basic.
And here it says whiteboard. Oh, I want whiteboard. I want my.
You want either preview, or you should have a listing.
Oh,
Whiteboard's a very
gotcha.
first one. Pick whatever one you want to show just on a whiteboard.
Okay. Here is a okay, here we go. Okay. So these were can you guys see this?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. So these I did, like I said, all three of the processes. So kind of go through, this was the two different wizards. And this would have been the RGBA and HA with the Lumina, with the kind of a filter with the HA. This one just kind of played around with. This is a HA03S2. And instead of using the reds, it was more balanced towards the blues and the greens. It's cool because you can actually, like the previous, like ACs, you can really kind of see the wizard there, see his eye, see his mouth, see his
We're only seeing
beard and his hat.
Al, we're only seeing your desktop at the moment. We're not seeing your image. So you've selected the desktop, but not the, so we're seeing your desktop or at least a folder. So you've highlighted a folder full of stuff. Your folder of it. So we're seeing your folder of SDAA.
So you want to go back to unshare and then reshare and pick the whole screen, your display, as opposed to a particular window.
Okay. Share screen.
Yeah.
My preview. Try that.
There's your
There we go.
Okay. So like I said, I did 2 of the wizard. This was the RGB HA. And then this one was just kind of changing things around a little bit to, instead of using the reds on the HA, use some greens and blues. And you can kind of see the eyes and the mouth, because I thought it was pretty cool. You can really tell what's going on with the wizard. Constellation, the sunflower. I'm done with a RGB and a luminosity layer. And then 3 of the Christmas tree.
Wow.
Wow. Wow.
In that one. So my wife, I think, liked this one the most. But I was working on this one today. So let me see if I can
Wait, I like that one.
bring up. You can't see anything. You can't see my Affinity photo window now, right? So
No.
I need to stop and start again. Okay. Get the hang of this thing. So this is the, like I said, I did everything with Affinity Photo. And when you go into Affinity Photo, you can create different kinds of stacks. And one is a astrophotography stack. And from there, you can go in and select light frames, and you go in and say, where are my light frames? You pick your light frames. Go to the different bias, dark, flat, and flat frames. I don't know what dark flat frames are, but I found from what Dave provided all the others and used all the others for the stacking.
So typically a dark flat would have there's a flat with the with noise reduction in it. And Taro's data is usually so clean, there's no reason to do that.
Okay. So I don't know if you can see to the right-hand side here, there's a bunch of layers. See the clarity, selective color, see that towards the right? I'm going to, this is basically the workflow. I'm going to turn all these off. And it's definitely not the easy PixInsight process. It's very manual intensive, because I guess this is what you would do in Photoshop as well. So started off with the HAs and turned it data to red. The O3s went to the blue. Added the sulfurs, went with the green. And with each of these layers, you can specify how you want to layer them, how you want to blend those layers. And so all 3 of these are done with an add. So they're kind of combined together. They're not overlaying. They just kind of work together. And then the luminance is brought in as a luminosity blend, which is something like I said, I haven't used Photoshop in a long time, where I don't think I've ever used it. So I'm not sure how it compares. Then we added curves adjustment to kind of bring out some of the colors. And then you merge all those adjustments into a pixel layer. Basically, each pixel has a color. And then then I went in and just did some adjustments to that. So added a brightness adjustment to start bringing out some of the reds, the shadows and highlights to bring out a little bit more of the brightness. Here's a curves adjustment to bring out more of the red still. A selective color adjustment, which is kind of neat, where you can actually change some of your colors and how things work. And then I added a clarity filter at the end to kind of bring out some of the texture here at the end. The thing about the selective color, you can basically go into a particular range, channel, reds, yellows, greens, blues, and then within that you can set a cyan, magenta, yellow, black kind of things there. So for this, if I go into the reds and I bumped up the cyans a little bit, if I want to do something a little bit, take it away, get a little more brightness, a little bit more red out of it. I didn't do anything to the magentas, but the yellow makes a big difference. Getting some, well, who knows what the thing actually looks like, but you can really be brings up my artistic side to kind of play with different colors. And like I said, this is a really great learning experience. I learned an awful lot, and very good process. So
Cool.
So I will
Cool.
try to unshare.
Neat tool.
All done, Al?
Yeah.
So what's the name of the program again?
Affinity Photo.
Affinity.
AFFINITY photo. And I think it's a lot like Photoshop, but I got it for like 25 bucks. I think it sells for like 50 bucks.
Huh.
And there's a lot of good documentation and tutorials online that tells you how to do exactly. I mean, I followed these tutorials step by step in order to get a lot of what I was doing here.
Yeah, interesting. Anybody else? Zahir, do you want to show some of yours?
I'm not quite sure.
I know you were very humble in the email to me, but
No, because I don't know what I'm doing. So there's a reason for that. It's well-deserved humility.
yeah, okay.
I had managed to mess around with the image that I sent you. It wasn't the traditional Hubble palette, but I actually like it. But you're talking to a colorblind guy, so I'm working with a few handicaps. I'm not quite sure. I have a couple of, let me see if I can find a couple of images here that I played with. They're very, very basic. I haven't finished working on them. It's work in progress, so yeah.
Okay, so you're going to pass?
Give me a minute. Why don't you go ahead and do it and see if I can bring up the images.
Okay.
And I can try to just pull them up. Okay.
Delmar, do you want to show something? Or are you just watching? You're still muted, Delmar.
I think he says just watching by reading lips, but now.
Okay. You read his lips, huh?
Yes.
Okay, well, that makes sense. Jim Heaton, you're just watching, right? So I think we've been through everybody except maybe Zahir wants to say something, but I can go through what I did. Let me just share my screen.
While you're doing that, I was kind of fascinated by that program's ability to change the RGB mix within a given color channel, and Photoshop will do it too. It's called Channel Mixer. Channel Mixer. It's and it does the same thing. You can choose a channel and then modify the red, green, blue, and the constant, whatever that is, inside of it. That I was intrigued by how that worked. Because again, I can't do that in PixInsight.
Yeah, there's certain things that either you've learned early on about how to do things, or maybe they just aren't easy in PixInsight, but there's a lot of reason to step outside of it and do things other ways. And I will certainly demonstrate that. I will show my lack of currency with PixInsight. I got two reasons for that. One is I've been off doing a bunch of stuff with Pat Boyce, and I've been distracted from much image processing. And the other is PixInsight and I are stuck. I have a version that's maybe 4 years old, and somehow the licenses and the passwords just don't work, and I haven't found a way to get them. I've tried to get them to respond and fix things, and I've been unsuccessful. Anyway, so I went through the wizard, and I thought it was interesting that anybody that wants to image it right now, it's in a pretty good position. It's already, this is 1st of August, so we could actually do this for the next meeting, but it wasn't on the list. But it's certainly up there and ready to be pictured at this time of year. So if you go to the internet, you can find many versions of the wizard, and most of them are incorporate narrowband, and that makes a nice dramatic picture. If what you're trying to do is make a dramatic picture, and I think this is something you ought to decide, even before you start the process. What are you trying to do? Make something that is real attractive and dramatic, or are you trying to reproduce what the human eye might see? And if you're doing the former, then certainly the narrowband images are the way to go, and then Lrgb if you're really trying to reproduce what somebody might see. So the Tarot Lrgb images look like this. This is just in PixInsight and stretched with the STF, and you can see that there's an awful large number of stars and some nebulosity. It's interesting that the green and the blue are almost identical, and that's probably because the emission is in that region is oxygen, and oxygen is kind of a teal color, which is sort of blue and green, so they're similar. But there is obviously quite a bit of nebulosity, but an awful lot of stars that don't necessarily make for a beautiful picture. And here's the narrowband images that just again stretched with the STF. And certainly H alpha is the one that dominates, and it's where all the structure is, and you can see the difference in substantial difference between S2 and O3, but they both have considerable structure in the nebulosity. And these, of course, will be good for dramatic pictures, and there are fewer stars, but still, in either case, what you're trying to do, I think, is to emphasize the nebulosity, and if the stars are too bright, they detract from that, and I suppose if they're too dim, then they don't look realistic. So I did some narrowband processing first, and I did combination of the H alpha, S2, and O3. And there are about 5 in the version of PixInsight that I have, which is a couple of years old. There are about 5 ways to do it. The 2 simplest are just Lrgb and channel combination. Then there are 3 scripts that let you add luminance to an image, or add H alpha to an image according to a process, this AIP process that somebody invented. And then there's the SHO process, which lets you do almost anything to any color, and you could use, what do we have? We got 7 different bands here. And with some of these scripts, you could go nuts trying to combine 7 different bands into a picture that you liked. But this is okay with the Lrgb. I found with this particular, what I like to do occasionally is make H alpha be the luminance channel, because that's where all the structure is. And then I've made H alpha be red, S2 green, and O3 be blue. And when you do that with either the Lrgb process or the Lrgb script, then what you get is some really dramatic halos. And Dave and I talked a little bit about that. I don't think we fully understand what's going on, but it's not attractive, and it's not obvious how to process it out. Although in Photoshop, if you use the one of the Photoshop functions does take it out pretty clearly, if you in fact need to do that. But if you just combine them, this H alpha, S2 and O3, then you get a pretty good image, and the stars are not don't have halos, and they're pretty in this particular one, they're pretty reasonable colors. They're not obviously the natural colors that you would get from stars, but they are reasonably white, I guess. So you can obviously order the colors differently. There are other orders that could be done, but these are the 2 or 3 common ones, I guess. With H alpha, this is the HSO, and this is the SHO, the sulfur, hydrogen, and oxygen arrangement. And to me, what's kind of appealing is the SHO, and so that's the path I followed down. But you could do other ones, and it's all a matter of taste, I think. So to contrast, to enhance the contrast and sharpen it, there's a whole bunch of different ways you can do that in either PixInsight or in Photoshop. And unsharp mask, or I'm sorry, deconvolution is one of the techniques in PixInsight that everybody likes to try to follow for sharpening the image, not for contrast enhancement. And that's a very mathematical, rigorous way to do it, and generates a result that's very good, but there's quite a bit of art to it, and fooling around to get a good result. But there's a technique in Photoshop that I like, which is involves a high pass filter. Basically what you do is you take the image and you add a layer on top of it and pass that layer through a high pass filter. And then you can combine that layer with the original layer in different ways, and pick your favorite arrangement of the high pass filter layer with the basic layer. And to tell you the truth, I have no idea how that works. It does. And so anyway, just to do it, just to be expedient and get something quickly, that's what I did. And anyway, it enhances the star brightness. And when you do, there's stretching involved here. So notice that the stars are not as prominent here as they are after that processing. So AC talked about that star size reduction script, which is really a nice thing, and I think I really should learn how to do that. But there's in PixInsight, it involves the HDR process, the star masking, and morphological transformation. So if you do it by the processes in PixInsight, it's far from simple. but it does, because it generates a star mask, it really makes sure that the star modifications don't somehow affect the nebulosity. But for years in Images Plus, there's been a star size reduction function, and it's very simple. You just slide, you just use a slider to make it as strong or as weak as you want. There's no mask involved, and it's a nice process, but it does, because there's no mask, there's some discernible change to the structure. And in fact, it kind of sharpens it up, I guess. Another way to say it is that it makes it unrealistic. So you want to be careful if you do that, not to stretch things too far. Anyway, I used, again, because I didn't take the time to learn how to do it properly in PixInsight, I just used the image processing, or the Images Plus star size reduction. And then after you've stretched it and done that star size reduction, you have, if you looked at the images before any processing, just after the channel combination to create the RGB, then you'd say, and you blew them up like this, and you'd look at them and you'd say, well, there's no reason to do noise reduction because the images are just so free of noise. But then after you do the stretches and this noise reduction or star size reduction, there is really a need to clean up some of the noise that results. And there are ways to do that. All these are PixInsight ways. My favorite, maybe because it was advertised, came out early, is a MLT. And it's very straightforward to generate a set of coefficients to go with the layers in MLT, and so that's what I did here. And you have to be careful not to overdo it, so you don't start to affect the structure. But I just kind of knocked down the noise a little bit, and so finally, I just did some enhancement to the color and cropped it. And this is the result, which could have turned out, I noticed AC's result had a lot more, the colors were a lot more saturated. Perhaps that's just a matter of personal taste, but you could come up with a lot of these stretching tools and color enhancements. You can come up with all sorts of different representations of the image. And this is just one that I got doing it in a couple of days. Actually, I spent more time worrying about the halos that were created back at, when I tried to do it with the hydrogen alpha channel being the luminance channel and using Lrgb. But anyway, that's pretty much what it looks like. So then I processed it real quickly with just Lrgb. If you just take those four channels. Go ahead. Question? Nope. If you just take those four channels and do Lrgb combination on them, and then do background neutralization. The one thing you know in the image for sure is that the background is very dark and there isn't any color to it. So the background neutralization is a very logical thing to do after you've done the combination. I should have said that back on the narrowband stuff too, but so anyway, if you do background neutralization, it takes out the green that the atmosphere may have introduced, the light pollution, and you end up with an image like this. But I think that Lrgb channel combination. Now in channel combination, excuse me, channel combination is just the RGB combination, but there's a process in, I forget what the name of it is. Oh, color calibration, right. So with color calibration, you pick a chunk of the background that you want to be neutral. You also pick a chunk of the image that has white in it, that you want to be white. And then it does a full calibration of the colors. And that, I would say that kind of gives you something that's kind of as realistic as you can expect to make it, or as much like your human eye would see if your human eye could ever see anything like this. So then,
Hey, Scott,
yeah,
I'm guessing because you've got an old version of PIX, you don't have photometric color calibration in your system.
I just have color calibration. That's the name of the process.
Right. So what's happened is that they vastly improved this. There's something called photometric color calibration. ECC actually goes out, you specify, it actually gets the coordinates off the FITS header. And when you say go do this, you actually pick out with inside of PIX Insight, you say, hey, I want this balance to a G2V star, or I want the color balance. I want you to find a V2G star in this image, and I want you to calibrate against that. It will also say, hey, no, I want you to balance this against a standard white galaxy. And there's quite literally 200 different ways that you can color balance this thing. But basically what happens is that PIX Insight now goes out to a database in one of several different countries. And the one I use happens to be in France, and it gives you that choice. And it will actually do a complete color calibration based on photometric calibrations. It's really quite accurate.
And does it have to know the color response of your filters?
No,
to do that?
It doesn't.
No.
Nope. It does not. It basically says, here is what it assumes that your color filters are within the standard bandwidths. And it applies a photometric color calibration against everything you use. It actually finds someplace within it does a plate solve, and it plate solves your image and says, oh, that star right there is it basically says that star is the star you want a reference to. So it'll actually find a G2V star if you want inside of your image. And then it will calibrate to that G2V star everything else in the picture.
Wow.
So it's very powerful. It is very accurate. It actually at the end gives you a full light curve when you're done with this stuff.
Wow,
that
that's
called again.
Yeah, well, I got to say, PIX Insight's gone a long way towards making these things realistic.
Yes.
What was the name of that process, David?
Oh, it's PCC, photometric color calibration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And after you showed me how to do it, frankly, I do it every time, and
Yes.
it saves you a lot of steps. And if your mount doesn't, or your image capture program doesn't save the coordinates of the center of your frame, you can actually look it up, because the one I'm using has big boxes, but it doesn't pick up the SCOM position. You can say M63 and it'll go out and find it, and it plate solves it every time. So it's a very accurate. It's a huge shortcut.
wow. And is it a script, or I suppose it's
Scott, if you want to, I'll show it to you real quick. I've got it up on PIX Insight. If you want.
okay.
Pull it up, because
Let me stop my share.
Okay. Tell me you guys can see that right now. There's a screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is photometric color calibration right here. And so basically you pick your white reference, and there's all the different things you can pick as your white reference. So you wander down here, hey, how about a G2V star?
We're not seeing PCC.
Wait, we're not seeing, all we're seeing is your process console.
Oh, you don't, wow, that's, okay. Maybe PIX Insight doesn't share that too well. Hang on, let me try something else here. New share. Isn't that interesting? Well, I'm sharing pics. I wonder if PixInsight doesn't share very well. Let me try something else here.
Works fine on my machine.
Sort of like a 5-year-old.
Interesting. No, it's not picking up my.
Are you sharing your desktop? Share that
Oh,
instead
no,
of the
no, I'm
application.
physically sharing the app.
You try the desktop then.
Yeah, try the desktop.
That may work.
All right, let's do here. Let's do stop.
Yeah, because I was on the desktop when I did mine.
Advanced. Let me see if I can do advanced files. No, basic. Stop. Let me stop the share right now here. Let's do a new share. Share screen. I may have to tweak something with inside of Zoom real quick. Without getting real crazy on it. I think what I need to do is to change a setting within Zoom that allows me to share screens as opposed to yeah.
Is there a setting that turns that off?
Yeah, there is. There is definitely a setting that allows you to share screen, share all windows from an application, and automatically share my show all. Okay, show all sharing options. All right, done. Let's see if that works. You would think I would know all this stuff by now after a year and a half of Zoom in my brain. So share screen.
Oh, you're trying to start a program directly then?
There
There
it
you
is.
go. Now we
Okay.
got it.
Got it.
Yeah, no, there's a setting inside of Zoom that allows that. Okay, so back to here. So here is
See, what he was trying to do was share a window.
no, actually, I was
not the
sharing.
whole screen.
No, actually, no, I was sharing the application, and and there's a setting in Zoom under the advanced settings for sharing that allow you to pick very specific instances. And I do this because when I'm actually hosting the big meetings for the general membership meeting, I got 70 people I have to monitor. I don't want to make a mistake and try to share a desktop that might have 70 faces on it. So I tend not to. I lock that stuff out so that if we're in a general membership meeting, I don't make that mistake. I just needed to change a setting in Zoom. Anyway, photometric color calibration. You have both narrowband and broadband working, so you can actually select which mode you want to work. In this instance, I'm just working with broadband. You can select whatever you want here. Average spiral galaxy, you can elliptical, whatever. It gives you a complete choice of whatever you want to. So if you've got a galaxy in your picture, you can select average galaxy, and you can select that, or you can select G2V. So here's your database servers, and they're all over the place. I've had very good luck with the France database servers, and it will apply color calibration from that set of sources. From here is where you pick off. So basically, within inside the image parameters, you can pick where you want. You can either select it or you can acquire it from the image. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll actually open up a raw image or one of just the unprocessed subs and acquire the data from an unprocessed sub and then close it back up again where the FITS file is still intact. Because typically what happens is that if you do a color calibration in PIX, the data in the FITS file goes away. So I will open up just a raw, any one of my images I've got, the subs, and acquire from the image, and that'll populate the image parameters. Plate solving is real straightforward. There, I don't do anything other than just leave this as stock. There's some advanced plate solving. I've never played with any of that, and then it will also apply background neutralization for you. So it's complete. It's very much a saver, and it gets everything really, really accurate. And then after that, you can do a histogram stretch and you screw the whole thing up. Then you become an artist again. But at least this gets you to a point where, yeah, okay, I'm calibrated, and anything I do from here just means I'm now an artist.
Yeah,
So,
and you don't want to do any, I mean, if you want to preserve that, you don't want to do any nonlinear stretch. Because that just.
Well,
that
no,
messes
you can, you can do a nonlinear, a straight STF or a straight stretch on it, and it will still preserve the colors as long as you're not playing around with the with the individual colors on a stretch. As long as you're stretching,
Okay, yeah.
you'll still stretch it fine.
Yeah.
But in photometric, at least this is a really accurate way of doing it, and it's been out for a couple of years now. It's quite handy.
Yeah. I need to figure out how to update PixInsight.
So, and I've got some processes up here that are a little bit different as far as things I've found for various different objects, things like that. And I've got these as preset images, or I said preset process modules. You notice I kind of line them up over here. These are lined up in chronological, so I'll apply these mostly as chronological fit items. And typically, I'll also have a couple of different workspaces. One for here's my linear workspace, and then I'll have a nonlinear workspace and move my images back and forth anyway. So that's just some of the fun nonsense. But that's something you want to keep in mind. And this is one of the things you may want to very much go hop on board and go harass the guys in Spain to get you an updated license.
Yeah. I just need to find the right channel to talk to them.
If I can find Juan's email address, I'll send it to you.
That would be useful.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And you can download some of those databases to your own hard drive, and it speeds it up a little bit. But that APAS database and the other one
Yeah.
Talk about the plate solving.
for plate solving. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just for grants to show you guys what I did a couple of years ago with the wizard. So this is my standard processing. I aim for pretty much corrected colors. In this instance, I was more interested in making sure that I had reasonably calibrated colors on my stars that weren't blown out, so I could use my stars in images where I started to add in the various different filters. So this is Lrgb as a straight combination, and I did not do any type of star reduction or anything along that line. The next step I did individually was take my HA and completely process my HA pictures. So this is a fully processed HA standalone on its own before I mixed anything else. So this was all of the noise processing was taken care of before and DBE was applied to this before I threw anything else at this. So I'm working with in this particular instance. So I worked with RGB and luminance as two items, and then combined those after I'd applied DBE and the full standard process to each one. Then at the end, did an Lrgb combined to get that, and then did a mask stretch, saturation stretch on the stars, leaving the nebulosity alone. But I did want to bring up the star colors and get accurate colors on the stars. And again, same thing with the luminance. So in the case of trying to do my HA, I wanted to go ahead and make sure that everything was clean before I tried to do a combination on that. And then my final, this is where and unlike Scott, I added my HA to my red. So in the case of, I did both enhancing. So if you look here, yes, HA has quite a bit more. This has quite a bit more detail, and this is 12 hours. If you didn't look, this is I don't think there was any way you would guys know this, but this is almost 13 hours of HA data in this image alone. There was 43 hours of data for the wizard, so there was a long time pointing at this thing to be able to get the data for it. So in this instance, this is 12 and a half hours of HA data. Again, my goal was to make sure that this was fully processed, that and the background had been fully eliminated and was clean before I did a combination to the red. So I actually added this as part of a red channel using one of the scripts that allows you to blend HA into the red. So, and at this point, I decided to go ahead and do a morphological transform to reduce the sizes, to give a little bit more emphasis to the nebula composition. There isn't much on my scaling that I use for the morphological transform. I usually scale it to something real small so it doesn't touch the big stars. Morphological transform tends to get a little wacky when you try to increase the scale. You try to play with the big stars. So I usually use it just to make sure, just to reduce the size. I think I set a scale of 6 in there to do that kind of a trick.
And did you build a mask to do that?
Yes, I did. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. I build a star mask, apply the star mask, and then go ahead and apply morphological transform with the star mask.
Okay.
So the other thing I wanted to do was I'd always wanted to do something that used the Hubble palette. And so this is a straight blend of HA, S2, and O3. Obviously, and this is a Hubble palette, so SHO, where S is the where S is red, or excuse me, yeah, S is red, or hydrogen is green, oxygen is blue. Obviously, there's lots of green in here, so how do you deal with that? Well, I backed up a little bit and did something called linear fit. So linear fit balances the histograms between all of the images. So, and you pick one, whatever one you want. In this instance, I picked my weakest of the two, which I believe was oxygen, and so I did a linear fit against the 3, and that was my end result right here, was the linear fit. So I get a blending of HA and I get a clean blending of HA and sodium with the highlight of oxygen as blue. And then I played around and did a star mask to clean up the stars, take the purple. And actually, one of the tricks I did was, in this particular image, was to take and put a star mask on after I'd done this, and then applied the star mask to the nebulosity, and then did SCNR. And if you've used SCNR, you put it in green mode, and voila, it takes the green out of the stars. Yeah. So so in taking the green out of the stars removes the purple and gives you some reasonable stuff back. Now I still have a little bit of purple left, left in some of the stars, but at least you start to get the reds and the blues back out of the color when you do that trick.
That's neat.
Interesting.
So that's some of the other stuff. A couple of things just for, if you like screwing around, and I did all of this before I took the Masters of PixInsight stuff on preview. I did this before I took the Masters of PixInsight stuff on narrowband stuff, and there's some really interesting. If you guys sign up for that particular Masters of PixInsight program, you actually end up with a really good set of process icons for doing narrowband. And the video it's a 2-hour long. It was a 2-hour long class, and the data that Ron and everybody went through was really good as far as on the narrowband. And they made sure that, hey, narrowband's wide open, it's wide field. There is no such thing as right or wrong in narrowband. And they have some remarkably good process icons for doing filtering and things like that. So you gotta be aware of that. One other thing to do, just for grins, sure. So the one of the things I decided to do was to try to do a nice HA on just HA alone on the Christmas tree cluster. If you, those that actually looked at it, you'll find that the propensity of HA in that particular data set is huge, absolutely huge. And it was big enough that when I first spoke to Warren about it, they said, oh, wow. And they actually used this data set to show how to combine HA and luminance together in the Masters of PixInsight. So if you get to that, if you pull up that course and buy that particular course, you'll actually see this portion of the data being used as part of PixInsight. So both the Foxfur and the cone are all part of that. But the one thing I wanted to try to do, and I'm assuming you guys see that.
Yeah.
So this was my first attempt at using the StarNet++ and completely removing the stars in that picture. So there is kind of an artsy fartsy. What happens if you ditch this, if you make the stars go away? So that's so there is a full complete StarNet removal. The only thing it couldn't do was remove that giant star right there. So that guy right there, I just kind of did a little clone stamp and don't tell anybody.
Cool.
So that's all the fun stuff I was doing.
Yeah. Well, anybody else got a sequence Zahir? Did you
Yeah.
still want to show us?
How do you gotta tell me how to turn it, how to share my screen? I see a button here. Did I press that?
Yes. You press that one.
All right. Okay. So I just want to show. Oi, that's not what I want to do. Okay. Let's see. Okay.
No.
Hang
There you
on.
go.
See anything? Okay. Okay. Let me get that. So this is the image I shared with you. This is just a JPEG because I wanted to send it over to you, and it's an unusual palette. Red is hydrogen alpha, green's O3, and blue's sulfur. And this is what the traditional, I haven't played with this much, the traditional Hubble palette, but I've used in both these DS9 to process the image. I stretched them in there using the oxine function and just combined them. These images, are the 3 or 4 in the narrowband and luminous images, and I use Fitz Liberator 4 to just pull them off. And I haven't had a chance to play with it, but the stretches on that are pretty good, just using the oxine function. This is the hydrogen alpha, and it shows quite a bit of data. So I'm in a learning mode here, and just trying to get get a sense of using basically public domain programs that are used by professional astronomers to see what I can do with the data. And Dave's data is so good that there's a lot I can learn just from messing with this one image. That's all I have.
Okay. Well, Zahir, it's you're at the beginning stages of this, and just understanding some of how the basic things works is important. And I find well, certainly PixInsight has a very steep learning curve, but it is the way to go. And a lot of people still fall back on Photoshop to do things that they're comfortable doing. I certainly do. But in terms of learning it, if you go to YouTube and go after these particular programs, there is so much out there, and it's so easy to pick it up from YouTube. It takes some time, but it's an entirely new way to learn things, I think, especially this kind of stuff. And I'd suggest you spend some time on YouTube and look over some of these other programs we've been talking about, and see what you can do.
But has anybody used DS9 or Fitz Liberator just to play with? Because I would think that they would have wider application. Just being able to, I'd like to learn how to process the Hubble data.
Yeah,
I
used to use
telescopes that are out there without using PixInsight.
Yeah,
and see if I can get any scientific information.
Yeah, I used to use DS9 years ago at work, and it's an interesting tool, and it's got a lot of capability, and there's things you can do in it, and then there's some other things that you can't, and you need to pick up how to do those.
Yeah, so yeah, I was just trying to figure out if there's things I could do beyond. I'd like not to put my artistic touch on these things as much as possible. So the idea of color calibration interests me because it gets my senses out of the middle of it.
Yeah,
It's a huge handicap being colorblind.
yeah.
Mm.
Anybody else have things they want to show? Or are we're a little bit over time, but that's really good.
Oh. So real quick, guys, if you haven't seen this, if you're interested, here is, do a quick, yeah, continue, Google Chrome, share. So if you look right here, Warren has got a free 5-part primer. So you can go through here and this will take you step by step through the primers. And these are all free. They're all very, very good. It's that stuff that's really easy to straightforward to learn. So if you've got any interest at all in trying to figure this out, run through his primers. These are all really good. And they don't cost a dime. So that'll be something that for those that are trying to get into PixInsight, there's a good place.
This is on his site, not on YouTube.
Yeah, what I'll do is I'll throw this into the chat. Do a quick copy. So if you guys look at this, there's the link in the chat. So you guys can pick that off and go take a look at it. So
Cool.
it's good. It takes about, the entire, and this is typical Warren. He, 5 minutes worth of stuff, 10 minutes worth of stuff. You get pretty well welded into what he's doing, but it's real straightforward.
Did you send the chat? I didn't.
Yeah, it's in the chat window. Oh, hang on.
I didn't see it.
I sent it to, let me send it to everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, because I don't have anything in my chat either. Oh, there
Perfect.
we
I
go.
see it now.
Yeah.
While we were talking, I installed that easy processing suite. I'm glad to learn about that.
It'll sure decrease your workload. Dave, you were talking about my benchmark. I ran it at 2 minutes and 19 seconds for swap performance 920.
Okay, so have you added swap files? Because you can increase the performance of your system by adding additional swap files.
No, I did not.
So you can multi-thread this thing so that you can actually utilize and you can actually run. So if you keep running the benchmark back and forth, let's see, make sure I'm doing this. So stop share. Oop. I think my dog's looking for a walk.
Well, I've got 12 processors and 32 gigabytes of memory in this computer.
Yes, but that's not the threads. What you're looking to do.
Wow.
So so I'm going to share that. Let's share the PixInsight share. Okay, so if you go here, PixInsight, that's the files. Where do I find that bad boy at? I believe it's under global preferences. You guys see that window?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you go into parallel processing and threads, you make sure all of that is good, but under, is it directories? There it is. So under directories, what you're doing is that you can go in and add swap files. So you can add additional swap files. So you can run a benchmark and add a swap file. And at some point in time, you'll hit a peak. You'll see that you've got more swap files than you can handle. But in this particular map, what I'm running is something like 10 swap files, something like that. And you'll find that your performance increases dramatically if you run that benchmark. So run the benchmark, and you don't have to reopen the image. You don't have to download the image every time when you run the benchmark. But as you run the benchmark and add a swap file adding swap files, just basically, and you put the swap files on an SSD or a RAM drive. Don't do the swap files on a standard spinning old hard drive. It won't do you any good. So if you're going to do this trick, make sure you do it either on RAM drive. You can build your RAM drive, and it sounds like AC could build a RAM drive with the amount of RAM he's got, or put it on a location in an SSD. And at some point in time, you will get to a point where you will go beyond the amount of swap files that your computer can use effectively. But doing this particular trick will dramatically improve the performance of PixInsight. And you can do this on both Windows and Mac. It doesn't make any difference. It's in the preferences, in the system preferences, in directories and network. This is where you add your swap files at. It'll come with one, so you'll know you find the right place when you find one swap file in a proper directory. And you can put them anywhere. It doesn't make any difference. All it is a place for PixInsight to go and drop multiple swap files and keep them rolling without having to go back and look at one instance. So this is a good way to improve the performance of PixInsight.
Cool.
And I will stop sharing. Now it's late enough for people falling asleep.
Yeah, okay. Well, all I can say is thank you guys for sharing. It's, I think, been a very useful session, and I think I know I learned a lot, and I hope you guys did too. So we'll try to do this again next month. In fact, we will do this again next month. And we'll be looking at the Eagle Nebula and the Satyr Nebula, or the nebulosity around Satyr, and see what people's pictures look like.
Okay.
So
for those that are on the call that don't know about it, if you send an invitation request to tarot@sdaa.org and ask for access to the Google Drive folder, there's a ton of tarot data that you can grab and go play with. At least I hold 2 years worth of tarot data. I think there's 12 or 14 objects on there that you can go play with. So tarot@sdaa.org, and I will send you an invite to the tarot data. You can play with it all day long and drive yourself nuts.
great. Okay, anybody else got anything? Then I guess that's pretty much a wrap. So we'll see you guys next month.
All right, guys.
Thank you.
Great, thanks.